I'm Jonathan, and this is Map Learning, a place to learn freely without ads or noise. Let's continue our journey. So the purpose of this video is we're going to learn some basic steps on how to keep yourself safe online. I'm going to be covering desktops, browsers, mobile devices, and everything in between. But this is going to be a multi-part series because I don't want the videos to be extremely long. So in this first part, I'm going to be covering website and email verifications for desktop, laptop computers, Windows and Mac OS. So Edge is a browser by Microsoft, and it is available on many different devices. You have Windows and mobile devices. I'm not sure if there's a version for Apple. I'd be surprised if it was. But to determine if a website is valid, there are certain things that your browser is going to tell you right off the bat. And in this example that you see in my screenshots, at the very top of the browser window, if you can see it, I have circled in red, it says not secure. And this is an example of a website that does this specifically to show you what it looks like. So you can go to this website. It's badssl.com, and it's not a malicious website. It just tells you what your browser looks like when it sees a bad certificate. So when you want to look at the details of these certificates, first you click on that not secure button, and then you're going to click on certificate details. It's going to open up another window where you can look at the details of the certificate. So with this certificate, you can see that it's run by badssl.com, and you can see the common name is Komodo RSA, Domain Validation Secure Server, and that is the company that generated this certificate. So Komodo is a very popular certificate authority for giving out certificates for web servers. And you can see the reason why the browser doesn't trust this certificate is because of the validity period. Issued on Wednesday, April 8th, 2015, expires on Sunday, April 12th, 2015. And that was 11 years ago. So obviously it's not going to be trusted. Your browser is going to come up with a big warning that says, hey, I don't trust this certificate. And you have to go to extreme measures to force the browser to go to that page. First, you're going to click on Advanced, and then there is going to be a button at the very bottom that says continue to the unsafe website. Now, if this is a website that you know for a fact is trustworthy, go ahead and go to that website. Just because the browser said that it doesn't trust the certificate doesn't mean that it is 100% a malicious website. All it's saying is, hey, I don't trust this certificate, so be warned if you continue to this site. In Firefox, this is an example of a trusted website. In this example, I went to the Wikipedia homepage, and you can see a shield with a check mark in it. I've circled that in red, and if you click on that, there is a lock with a button that says connection secure. If you click on that, it's going to bring up this window, and you can click on this little link that says more site information. It is going to do something similar as Edge, but by default, you're going to see a new Firefox browser window with security automatically chosen, and you're going to see a button that says View Certificate. And that is going to open up yet another web page, and it's going to show you details about the certificate. So the common name, you see the wikipedia.org. The issuer name is Let's Encrypt, and the validity period is from April 7th, 2026 to July 6th, 2026. And at the time of this recording, it is not yet July 6th, 2026, so this certificate is indeed valid. Now, most certificates for reputable websites are going to use what are called wildcard certificates, meaning that this one certificate is good for a bunch of different websites for that entire organization. So you can see here down at the bottom the subject alt names, that stands for subject alternative names, and these are all the different websites that use this trusted certificate. Chrome is very similar. Again, I went to the homepage of Google, google.com, and you click on this little button to the left of google.com, and it says connection is secure, similar to Firefox. You click on that arrow, and it brings up this window, and you can click on certificate is valid, and if you mouse over it, you can see it says show certificate issued by WR2. If you click on the anywhere in this certificate is valid link, it is going to bring up this page, and this is Chrome's yeah, Chrome's version of showing the certificate. So issued to, there you see the wildcard certificate, star.google.com. The organization is Google Trust Services. Now, if you remember with the last trusted certificate, it was given by Let's Encrypt, which is a completely different organization than Wikipedia. Where in this case, Google's web server was granted by Google Trust Services. So they are large enough and they have enough money to have their own trusted certificate authorities. So they have generated their own certificate that is trusted by almost every computer in the world. And the validity period is April 7th, 2026 to June 30th, 2026. So again, as of this recording, this certificate is still valid. There are other fields of the certificate that are extremely important to know, but I will cover that in a different lecture. In Safari, which is used in Apple devices, you have a similar selection. On the top of the Safari window, there's the same lock icon, and you click on that lock, and it brings up this window. And here you can see Safari is using an encrypted connection to www.apple.com. And I went to Apple's website with the Safari browser. And so you can see all the information about this certificate, and it was granted by Apple Public EV Server, RSA, blah, 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 blah. And even though this window doesn't say when the certificate was issued, it says when it expires. That doesn't mean that that information isn't there. It just means that the Safari browser doesn't show all the information all in the same screen. But you can see it says this certificate is valid until August 18th, 2026. Now, email is extremely important to know if you're looking at something that is legitimate. Now, email has been around for decades, so most people know how to identify when you have malicious emails. For this specific example, I went to my spam folder and just opened up an email at random. And I wanted to show some things to look for in an email to see the glaring mistakes where you can automatically tell that it's fake. So supposedly this email is for iCloud service, and it says your payment method has expired. Well, number one, I don't have an iCloud account, so obviously I'm not paying for anything. But let's just pretend I did. If I had an iCloud account, what are some other things that I could look at? Well, one thing that you can notice right below that error message, it says your photos and videos will be deleted. When you have a reputable website and a reputable company, they're not going to use uppercase, lowercase at random. In this case, deleted is capitalized at the beginning, then you have a space and two exclamation points. When you have a reputable website, I would hope they would use correct spelling and grammar. So those are just a couple things that are glaring. Now, on the right-hand side, I have highlighted some things that stand out. At the very top of the email window, you can see that it says from myself. That's the first part of my email address. But then when you look at the full email address, it has some characters at random.americans.uk.com. This is supposed to be coming from either iCloud or Apple, so obviously that's not correct. And then when you see the to address, it says me at AOL.com. Do you know anybody with the email address of me at AOL.com? Yeah, I don't either. In the middle of the page, as you can see here, there is a link that says update my payment details. If you mouse over that, here is what it says in the original URL. It goes to storage.googleapis.com and then some random characters. And then it says click or tap the follow link. Obviously, this is not going to be a legitimate web page for iCloud. There's nothing in here that points to Apple or iCloud. And then same thing down at the bottom. If you want to unsubscribe, please click here. And the here is a hyperlink. And again, it takes you to the same web page as the one above it. And if you do get spam, a lot of people say, unsubscribe. In this case, your email provider or client will have a button that says report as spam or junk or phishing or whatever. You can either do that or just ignore it. 99 times out of 100, you just want to ignore it, delete it. In the browser, if you look at your email, you can see different things as far as senders go. And in this example, I used my own email address to send an email with a digital certificate, meaning I digitally signed it, and I will explain more about that process in a different lecture. But you can see it says the verified email address with a green check mark. And if you click on sender info, it pulls up this information, sender's digital signature, signed by me. Here's the issuer and how long it's good. It's good from March 4th, 2026 to March 4th, 2028. I happen to have a certificate that is valid for 2 years. And if you click on download certificates, you can actually download the certificates that show this information. Now, let me switch to my computer, and I'm just going to show you how to verify this in real time. So, one of the things that you want to do is, let's say I go to the Bing website. Okay, I'm at www.bing.com. Up at the top, there is a lock. And if you click on that lock, it has a few different options. This here says connection is secure. If I click on that, it says, and I'm sorry if the text is small, but it says this site has a valid certificate issued by a trusted authority. Now, up next to the X, there is a little button that looks like a credit card. And if I mouse over it, it says show certificate issued by Microsoft TLS. If I click on that, this shows you that certificate viewer. So these are the details of that certificate. Now let me show you what the browser looks like if you go to that bad SSL website. So I'm going to go to badssl.com. And here I can see a bunch of different examples of bad certificates. So let me go ahead and click on the self-signed. So I click on self-signed and it says your connection isn't private. Okay. Attackers might be trying to steal your information from self-signed blah blah blah. The error is error cert authority invalid. And if I click on that error right here, it gives me more information about that. If I click on advanced, here it says continue to self-sign badssl.com unsafe. This means you can still go to that website even though the browser says it can't be trusted. And that is only for websites that you know for a fact are valid. Let me give you another example of a website that I know is valid. Oh, it did. It automatically put the last characters. So let me fix that. So this right here, this IP address, if you remember my lecture about IPv4 addresses, 192.168, that's a private address. And this happens to be the website of my router. And by default, my browser doesn't trust this website because it doesn't see the certificate. However, if I go to the website that represents the signed certificate, it gets me to my browser login page for my router. And if I click on the lock, same as before, and connection is secure, click on the certificate. Here I can see the certificate that was issued to my router, and this happens to be installed on my router. So when I go to the website that matches the name of the certificate, the browser trusts it. So some other things that you'll want to look for. Obviously, when you mouse over a hyperlink, it's going to show you what the underlying link looks like. And you want to be very careful about clicking on that. So the major things you want to look for are bad spelling and grammar. In this case, they can change Amazon and instead of an O, use a 0. So maybe the link says something Amazon.com, but when you mouse over it, it says Amazon with a 0 -verify.com. That shouldn't be trusted. Look at the top at your address bar. When you go to a link, make sure that in the address bar it represents what you clicked on. Now here's a tricky one, subdomain traps. A lot of people will set up a fake website that may be similar to a bank. In this case, secure.paypal.com. Secure.paypal.com is legit, but if you put a dot and some address after that, in this case is badguy.ru, and RU is the domain for Russia. Instead of going to paypal.com, you're just going to go to a paypal.com page that's named that in the badguy.ru domain. So that's how people can fake websites like that. Again, more misspellings. Now, top level domain is very important, and that is going to be your .com, .edu, .gov, and you want to make sure that the domain you're going to matches what you think you're going to. So, for example, if you go to .com, they could put .coo to trick you into going to that particular website. Again, there's also the .ru, there's also .ch for China, and um, .au for Australia, .ca for Canada, and every country has their own top-level domain. In fact, you can go to google.ca and you will see Canada's homepage for Google. Same thing if you go to google.fr. You can see Google's homepage in French if you so desire. Fake login pages. Again, they'll copy a website. There are utilities out there that can copy entire websites, and they will just copy it to their own computer and broadcast it over the internet to a bad site. And again, you have those certificate warnings from your browser. So those are just few of the things that you want to look for when you're browsing on your computer and using email. And this is very rudimentary, basic tips to keep yourself safe. Thanks for being here. If this helped you, please share it with someone who's learning too. Everything I make is free, and if you want to support the mission, the links are below. I'll see you on the next one.